Everybody, this is Professor Dipley. This is History 114. Welcome back. This is Module 3, Lecture Video 5. English Emigration in a New World. So emigrate means to leave somewhere, to go to another place. Immigrate means to enter, right? So these are the immigrants leaving England. So, what are they going to leave for? You're going to have things like the social crisis, opportunity in the New World, things like that. We talked about what plantation. Nope, I got out of that for a second. Sorry. So back to here. English demographics of the immigrants. At first, they're mostly single, unattached young men, especially in Virginia, Maryland, things like that. Over time, though, you're going to get more families in New England than other places. You're going to have free persons who come over, and these are going to be people who come over paying their own way, able to set up when they get here. The other, what you're going to have are indentured servants. So indentured servants are people who contract, enter into a contract to, in exchange for passage to the New World, they bind themselves to labor for someone else for no pay, right? The pay will be the room and board, maybe freedom dues when you're done, right? They're supposed to provide you, your master was supposed to give you some of these freedom dues so you can help set up. But indentured service signed a contract. Usually a 7-year term of service was the idea. You pay me, you'll pay my way over. I indenture myself to you. I will work until I've paid off my debt, and that's what the indentured servants are. It is different than slavery. Yes, the indentures could be controlled and things like that. But remember, the biggest difference between an indentured and a slave is an indentured person enters into a contract willingly. Slaves don't do that. And we'll talk about Peter Swink. Peter Swink, we'll talk about it later, but he was an indentured servant in Springfield, actually of Dutch African descent. He's going to be eventually be a landowner, a respected member of the community here. But it shows you can go from an indentured and rise up to a position of power, even though of influence. Even though if that was not the norm, it is possible. And there's some information and readings on Peter Swink as well. This is a pamphlet promoting people to come over to the Americas. This is an indentured servants contract. This one's from 1723, so you can see that it goes on for a while. But notice it doth voluntary bind himself as servant to, right? I'm not sure what it is there. What is that? Yeah, it's hard to read there, but nonetheless, this is the idea that this is a contract. You are voluntary binding yourself for a term of years to get to the New World. Now, why would people do that? They're doing this because there's not much opportunity in England. They don't have the money to get over here, and they want to try a better life. So it is a choice people make. For the English, land is the center to English liberty, right? The English view control of land as the ultimate mark of economic and social power. English liberty, the idea of those who have the upper classes have those liberties because they're self-sufficient. The view is if you don't own land, you work for somebody else, you're not truly a free person, or you're not truly fully control over your destiny because you don't really have you can't support yourself. There's also the view those who own land are going to be more somewhat conservative in the sense and are going to make choices that are good for the community rather than themselves. That's going to be the view. But yeah, land is central to English views of freedom. Taking Native American land, justifications, the argument is that the Indians had sort of forfeited it by not using it productively enough, right? They're not going to turn it into large-scale plantations, that sort of thing. And there will be land sales. One of the interesting things for the Native Americans is whether or not they truly understood they were fully alienating themselves from the land. That's what you mean when you sell something, right? You give it over, it's no longer yours. Natives didn't believe in land as a commodity. They didn't have real estate markets, things like that. So there is an argument that they think they might just be giving licenses, right? Letting you rent out the land, right? To use it in certain ways, where the English viewed it as they were buying it there. And again, you can see the videos for the English as conquerors and that. They're not going to view themselves as conquerors, but in many ways they are as well. The English goal is to separate the English and native. I mean, this is true up until 2014. The city of Boston had a law on its books, which was finally repealed in 2004. I'm sorry, 2004 this went to, not 14. Until 2004, City of Boston had a law that said no Indians allowed in the city of Boston. And that goes back to here. The English are going to remember expel the Indians from the land. That's their goal. They do not want to, settle around them. They're not trying to marry with them. They're not trying to fully convert them. They're certainly not trying to use their labor. I mean, they tried at first with the slaves, with English native slaves, but they are going to switch over to African slaves going further. Again, similar but different than the Spanish goals. Now, here's something to go more into. What happens as a result of Indian life as a result of European colonization? Well, in no uncertain terms, it upends, it changes it completely, both for the good, but mostly for the bad. This is going to really, really upset and change native lands. It's often been called the maelstrom, a maelstrom of change, right? A maelstrom is a raging storm sort of thing. Destructive. And in many ways, that's true. The Native Americans will be integrated into the Atlantic economy. So you have these groups that were really trading locally, now are part of a global economic system, right? Or globalized in a sense. Why? They're going to be producing goods for the English to sell back to Europe, be they animal skins, corn, other things. But increasingly, natives are going to rely upon European goods. And why not? Again, most Native American societies, civilizations were Stone Age peoples in terms of their technology. Here, the Europeans are going to come over with metal, tools, and weapons, and others, and it is useful. And so they're going to increasingly rely upon them, which will have negative consequences. Again, wide manufactured goods of European origin. You're going to have deterioration of traditional skills amongst Indians, amongst some Native American groups. Why? So they're not going to need to practice that much. Change their daily lives. A lot of way, and we're going to see one of the, this is, if you wanted to buy something as Native American, in a lot of areas, you wanted to buy an English good, you had to trade skins for it, animal skins, beaver skins, deer skins, things like that. This is going to change daily life, right? So for the Native Americans, if they're going to want European goods, they're going to have to focus now on hunting, and not hunting for survival, but hunting to get animal hides in order to trade. Increasingly, this is going to lead to a rise of native indebtedness, right? They're going to owe money to their English merchants and even colonists and colonies. And so this is going to be used by the English many times as a way to force or encourage natives to sell land to them, right? The idea that you owe us, they owe money, and so this is a way to get out of it. So the natives are going to lose significant portions of their land as a result. Changes the land again; they're going to use it much differently. You're going to have this. This happens in the this region too. Is the cows and others were a menace to Native Americans. Why? Because they would trample their corn, destroy their fields when they weren't out grazing. Native Americans obviously did not like this. It's hurting their own way of life. And so in some ways, when Native Americans would respond is by killing the animals, right, of disemboweling the cow, things like that. Why? Well, they saw them as destructive. They also understand how important economically they are for the English. But that's going to change the land. The use of hooved animals, draft animals, larger populations, larger attempts to create larger farms. It's all going to change the landscape significantly in the Americas. Here's an example of Chalk, who was actually Native American from this region, and he is going to be actually connected to John Pynchon, one of the son of the founder of Springfield. Here, this is early colonial era. Just about everything he's wearing in this this drawing is of European make, right? It's all of European goods. We saw this too in the last module with that one video of David, the only Native American, contemporary Native American painting or picture we have of New England natives. Everything he's wearing except the wampum beads were European origin. So you can see how much it is going to overtake their world and change it there. So the colonization of New England. Let's get into this. So here are a couple terms that people get mixed up. Pilgrim and Puritan, two different things, right? Pilgrim and Puritan, very different. There are some similarities, but it's very important to know the differences between them. The Pilgrims, they're going to be the first ones to settle in New England, large scale over the Mayflower. to a degree. They're both English Protestants. The Pilgrims are separatists, right? Remember, there are those in the English Anglican Church that said the break with Catholicism did not go far enough. The Pilgrims were that, right? They believed that it retained too many vestiges of Catholicism and their old rituals. And so they're going to be separatists. They say they can't work within this system anymore. Instead of trying to fix it, they want out. And so before they come to the Americas, they actually end up in the Netherlands and in other parts of Europe trying to create their own societies there. And what they end up going to do, right? Again, because the Church of England, the Anglican Church, so hopelessly corrupted that they're going to leave. And eventually they're going to decide, after it didn't work out so well for them in the Netherlands, they say they're going to come to the Americas, right? But it's interesting. You think the Mayflower is filled with pilgrims. Less than half of those passengers were pilgrims in reality who come in there. Other interesting note, New England, Cape Cod, was not where the Pilgrims were intended to go. Their original goal, what they got their original charter was to end up down in Virginia, down there, not at Plymouth Plantation, but down closer to Jamestown. Now, the story is, at least the Pilgrims told it, is that they got blown off course. I'm not sure if I believe that historically. Why? Because, well, think about it. If they're separatists, why would they willingly go? They're trying to leave England. They've already left once. Now they come back trying to leave again. Why would they go to an English colony in the middle of, the heart of the English system then, down in Virginia? Or maybe they intended to end up in New England, right? So they could truly settle their separate colony there. I think there's something to it. There's no full-on evidence of it. The Pilgrims will, again, claim that it was accidental. So that's the Pilgrims. Separatists don't believe you can reform the Church of England, want to be separate. They're going to have different views. They're going to be more hardliners, if anything, is really the view of it. Then you're going to have the Puritans. The Puritans here are also English Protestants. They believe that Church of England needed more reform to get rid of the Catholic influences. But they say they're going to stay within the church in order to reform it, right? So the Puritans are going to be a much larger number than the Pilgrims, right? But the Pilgrims are going to come first. But that's the real major difference between the two there. So who were the Pilgrims? Where they end up? At Plymouth Plantation. And you can see it's spelled different ways there of how the English language has changed. Again, separatist. They come over in the Mayflower. They land at Cape Cod. One of the important things, the Mayflower Compact, really. This was a business charter, a corporate charter to set up a colony. Most of the English colonies in the Americas actually started out as business ventures. It's very important to note. They have contracts. They amongst people, it is set up as a corporation. And later, now what they try to do is take that corporate charter, and that's what it is. A charter lays out how something will work, right? Especially a company. It's also another term for a constitution. And the Mayflower Compact becomes the first written constitution in many ways in the Americas here, right? Historical significance of how the place will be ran to a degree. It's laid on some facts, but this is very important. This idea of a constitution that will be used later. So when they get there, with the Pilgrims and this is something they don't often tell. The Pilgrims found a lot of farmland already cleared when they got to Plymouth Plantation. Why? What happened to the natives? They had cleared the fields, but many of them had died, and they had died from diseases. Again, even the Pilgrims that first get there, you had Dutch, French, and others, and English. Fishermen and others, fishing vessels had contact. That's all it takes to spread diseases like smallpox, and others. So the location of the colony, again, out on Cape Cod. Again, they had such limited resources. They did resort to grave robbing from Native Americans who had buried there to try to dig up food and other things and tools. They will get assistance from a native named Squanto. What's really interesting about Squanto, and there's more in the notes here, is Squanto spoke English, so he's able to communicate with them. Why? He had actually been captured, brought back to England for a while, made his way back to the Americas, found his village decimated and essentially killed off by the pandemic, the epidemics of disease. And so part of it is he's also trying to, he's without a group there. And so some of him align with the English is also going to be trying to, cement his position in the Americas as well, right, against Massasoit and others there. But that is where Squanto is. Again, he teaches him how to fish. How to plant. You see here, he's burying fish. That's because it works as really good fertilizer for the crops there. So he's teaching them these skills. And so, the Plymouth plantation most likely would not have survived if it was not help for the people like Squanto there. All right, and that's where we'll pick up. We'll talk about the alliances and treaties with